Hey everybody, Mike Iaconelli. Welcome back out in the shop with another episode talking about the baits, lures, techniques, rods and reels that worked in my brand new TV show called My World, airing on CBS Sports Monday nights, 9 p.m. And I want to go over and review the Kyle Troup episode. And if you're not sure, if you don't know that name, Kyle Troup happens to be one of the world's best professional bowlers. You might know him by his iconic big hair or maybe his bowling style, but he's one of 8 professional bowlers in the league that bowls two-handed. You know, this was going to be a special episode because I'm not that good at bowling. I wanted to learn a little bit about that. But more importantly, I was going to take Kyle out in the saltwater to film some saltwater fishing. And Kyle's a super tough competitor at the bowling lanes, so I wanted to give him almost an impossible challenge. And in a limited amount of time, I tasked Kyle with catching, as a team, catching a sheepshead, a tautog, a flounder, and a striper, all in the same day in a limited amount of time. On top of that, the day that we fished, we had a hurricane rolling up from the south straight toward us up the East Coast. We fished in the backwaters, down at the Jersey Shore, and we had a great strategy revolved around trying to knock out the hardest fish first and then fishing for the easier species second. No doubt in our mind, we wanted to try to target the tautog and the sheepshead first. We had a better tide, we had lower water, and for the tautog and the sheepshead, we were going to fish around bridge pilings. But for that style of fishing, it's almost a must to use a specialty jig head with a live crab. Green crabs, Asian crabs, using a live crab, dropping them on the bridge pilings. Surprisingly, we caught the sheepshead and the tautog really, I don't want to say easy, but we caught them pretty quick. And man, it was awesome because it left us the rest of the day to catch what we thought were going to be the easier species last, right? A flounder and a striper. What ended up happening though is because of the approaching hurricane, the tide started coming in a lot quicker than what we thought. The wind picked up, the current accelerated, and it really became difficult to fish, not just in the fast current, but in the windy conditions. So our first target after the tautog and the sheephead came in the boat, our first target was going to be flounder. And without a doubt, when I'm fishing for flounder, this is my favorite rig right here. And it's a bucktail on the bottom with a piece of gulp on the top. And basically, because that water started getting high and fast and getting a little dirty, I went with a 1/2 ounce or a 3/4 ounce white and chartreuse bucktail. A little bit brighter color, right, to show up in that dirtier water, and that heavier weight, a 1/2 or a 3/4, to maintain bottom contact. And we were going to drift channels, right? We're drifting deep channels, places where the channel bent along a marsh bank. And that was my thing that stayed on the bottom, right? Making bottom contact, bouncing along the bottom. And just like a drop shot in freshwater, I had a little hook tied in line, about 16 inches above that bucktail. And whenever I'm saltwater fishing, I don't care the species, but especially flounder, I'm always fishing gulp. And for this one, I decided to match that same color, right? Dirtier water. I went with a chartreuse in white, and this is the 4-inch swimming mullet. And when you look at that gulp bait, it's pretty awesome. It's got a mullet looking body. In this case, it's pearl white. And then it's got a curl action tail on it, a tail that has a lot of action. And in that current, as I'm drifting, that tail's just constantly moving. Basically, if you look at that, I tied in line a little dropper loop with about a 1/0, 2/0 little hook. And basically, I was going to thread that gulp on that hook. One of the things I like to do is I like to thread it so that the hook point is facing the opposite way of the bend of that tail, maximizes the action. So all I did, this is a great way to rig it, all I did was just thread this thing on the hook. Went in the nose, threaded it all the way down, almost to the change in that color palette where that gulp changes. And I just want to make sure the bait is nice and straight. And we went on a series of drifts that were really hard. And what I mean by that, hard to maintain bottom contact, hard to feel. But on about our third drift, I got that classic bite. And it's almost like dum, 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 dum. And then just that solid weight. I set the hook, fought the fish, and landed our third species of the challenge, a flounder, on the top rig, on the gulp. Once again, I'm not an expert in saltwater, but when I'm saltwater fishing, Berkeley gulp is key, and it was for that species. The flounder was down, which was exciting. You know, I fished that on a rod that is a bass rod, but ended up being perfect for this flounder combo. And I used the Abu Garcia Ike Series 7.2 medium action spinning rod. That was a perfect action for bouncing on the bottom, feeling those subtle bites. I paired that with an Abu Garcia Revo Ike in the 30 size, and I used the combination of 15-pound Berkeley Trilene X9 braid with 12-pound Berkeley Trilene fluorocarbon leader. Perfect combination for fishing in the backwater, fishing in the salt. You know, we had one species left. The problem that Kyle and I had is that the storm's coming and we were running out of time. We basically had about 40 minutes left to make a move from the flounder area and to try to go catch a nice striper. And I've caught striper on a lot of artificial lures in my time, but when I want to catch one and I want to get a bite quick, nothing beats a swim bait. So we both put these in our hands, and with about 15 minutes to go, Kyle caught a really nice 4, 5, 6-pound striper, and it came on that swim bait right there. And this is a classic. Listen to me. I don't care if you're fishing in freshwater for multi-species, largemouth, smallmouth stripers, or if you're fishing in saltwater for stripers, bluefish, whatever you're fishing for. That is a killer little swim bait right there. And we switched and went to the Berkeley Power Bait Hollow Belly Swim Bait in the 4-inch size. This is the Hollow Belly Swim Bait 4-inch, and we used it in a color called Gizzard Shad. But when you look at Gizzard Shad, that could be a lot of different things swimming in the salt, right? It could look like a little bunker. It could look like an anchovy. It could look like a little mullet. It could imitate a lot of things, right? It's pearl white. It's got some pearlescence in it. It's got those big eyes. But basically, we got that 4-inch hollow belly swim bait, and we threaded it on a 3/8 ounce jig head. You know, what we really tried to target were current breaks. Remember, the tide was coming in. It was getting high. So the things that were breaking the current were island heads, island tails, any area where marsh banks would stick out and make a point. And in particular, Kyle caught his fish at the very end on this in an area where the marsh bank, where the sod was falling off of the marsh bank. And when that sod would fall in, it would make little mounds off of the bank. And those mounds were current breaks. The striper were hiding behind those current breaks, and they were ambushing bait fish. And that Berkley Power Bait hollow belly swimmer was perfect. Dude, with that tail, this thing activates. It not only has a side-to-side tail movement, but it also has a roll. And that vibration, that action, that profile, that look, plus it's power bait. It has scent. That smell attracted the fish to the lure, and we completed the mission just in the nick of time. In fact, after we put the boat on the trailer, the storm hit, the rain came, it got windy, like 30-mile-an-hour wind, so it was a nail biter, but between the gulp and the hollow belly, it really saved our day. I hope you enjoyed that particular episode with Kyle Troup, saltwater fishing, changing it up a little bit. And I hope you learned a little bit about these two techniques. They could also be used in freshwater as well. I hope you enjoyed the episode, and I hope you enjoyed this in the shop, talking about the baits, rods, reels, line, techniques that worked in my brand new TV show called My World, airing on CBS Sports Mondays at 9 p.m. Try these. Good luck, good fishing, and we'll see you next week.